Welcome back to another live stream on Oak and Rock Fatherhood. I am your host, Zachary Small, joined by my co-host, Anthony Migliorino. What's up, Anthony?
What's going on, Zach? How we doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. No guests today, just you and I. We're rocking. We're talking about the truth behind the tragedies. And as everyone is aware, we had a horrible event play out in Texas. 19 children dead, 2 adults lost as well. Just absolute tragedy. And it's one of those things where when you see stuff like that, there's a lot of discussions to be had. And we've always made it a point every time one of these tragedies happen, every time something just evil plays out, we say you can see what they're talking about. When I say they're, I'm talking most mainstream outlets, but rarely does that align with the truth as to what's going on and why we're seeing these tragedies. And so we're going to dive into that tonight. And this is not about Texas. This is not about this one event. It's about the tragedies that we see playing over and over and over again. Instead of trying to fix things in the courthouse, I think it's time to focus on the home. And so that's where we're going to place our emphasis, getting out of the courthouse and focusing on your home. Let's put our emphasis there. And then I believe we can see some real change. Before we dive deeper into the subject, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share it. That's what keeps the lights on in our homes. So we can keep these conversations coming to you. With that, Anthony, it's a tragic event every time we have to talk about this, but I view it similar to spanking, to dealing with death, to dealing with a lot of the taboo subjects. It's not the most comfortable thing to talk about, but this is happening. This is happening on a semi-frequently basis. People will say it's rare, but because it happens, everybody notices it, kind of like a shark attack. Shark attacks are rare, but when they happen, they're gruesome. I think even if these are somewhat rare, it's worth our breaking down. It's worth our discussion to diving into why we see mainstream going in a certain direction, but those looking to make a change go in a different direction. And so when you see things like this play out, where does your brain go immediately?
Well, I would say that, it's where does my brain go? I immediately, when I hear about things like this, I go on Google and I search the shooter, anybody who's committing the violence, and I Google their childhood to see what that was like. Because for me, I think that's where the attention needs to be, and I think that's often overlooked. Right? We're so focused on the hysteria, and I mean the hysteria that's created. Right? We're so focused on what everybody's telling us to focus on. It's conflict, and it's not an inner conflict, it's external. Everybody's arguing, everybody's thinking that they know what the answer is, but yet we keep seeing the same things happen. So right away, I think about parenting. I think about a child who is neglected, who is abused, who's by himself, who has nobody to go to, whose life is really empty, and they have no outlet. They don't have any support staff. They have nobody who's telling them good things about themselves, who's building them up, who's giving them love, right? That's what all children need, is unconditional love. They need parents who care about them. And I would even go to further to say that this is a byproduct of fatherless homes, right? This, when we don't have fathers in the home, this is what we see. We see kids that are broken, kids that are destroyed. And if we want to fix it, we don't focus on the outside, right? We don't focus on what the politicians are telling us. We don't focus on what laws need to be made, because we can examine all laws, right? They don't work. I'm not saying we shouldn't have laws, but we need to really think critically about what's going on and why this is happening, as opposed to how could we just a quick fix, right? Oh, we nobody gets a gun ever. There's still going to be violence, right? Because we're raising kids that way. The majority of kids in this country, sadly, are raised with violence. And the ones that don't have parents, they might be neglected, but they're still raised in violence because they're going to other kids for that parental connection that they're missing. And those kids are violent. So it's a full circle.
When we talk about this, the main thing that I see too is, how do you get to the point where a mind makes that decision? How does a mind get to the point where they are willing to take the lives of other children? That's a dark place to go, man. For many, it's hard to kill an animal. Like when you think about like having to put a dog down, like you're inconsolable. You see the videos of men breaking down, children breaking down, or just losing a dog, losing a cat, losing their hamster or their goldfish. That's a normal response, is like you love something and it's gone. You value life. And so for a life, for a child to have such a disconnect or have so much pain in themselves that they are willing to let that rage go and just snuff out other lives, something is wrong in the home. Something is wrong in that child's environment. And you can't say, well, it's because he was bullied, because kids get picked on. And I understand that kids get picked on, but most kids, when they get picked on, they go home and they'll have a place where they're taken care of. Their mom will come in and maybe they'll baby them. Maybe there'll be other issues, but you know what? I would rather that and a parent saying, all right, kid, you got to toughen up, or a mom saying, come here, my sweet baby, let me take care of you. You're great the way you are. I would rather that. I'm not saying that's the answer, but I'd prefer something like that as opposed to going home to where parents are like absent. And so the kid's raised by TV, or he's matching up with other angry individuals online, turning to the dark web and dark things that you can find on there, or parents who just double down on the abuse. And I'm not saying that's what happened in this scenario, but in a lot of scenarios where I see broken kids who are on the fringe of just being psychotic, they can't even relate to other humans at that point. Their mind has fractured. It's because they're broken in society, so they're not welcome there, and they're broken in the home, they're not welcome there. And that life has to figure out, why was I brought here? Why was I born? Why do I exist? I shouldn't even be alive. And that's where you see them go out in a blaze of glory in their head, where I'm going to take everybody out, make them feel the pain that I feel, and then death by cop or suicide by cop. And then I want to die. So they take their own life, or they put themselves in a position to have their life taken from them. That is real trauma. That is real, unimaginable pain. That, again, dude, I lost my dog to a hit and run, and I was like, fucking, like, that hurt really bad. I've never gone to a headspace where I could see, like, I can't even go there. I can't even play that what if game of wanting to go to a place where children are sitting and learning, and just to take them out, just go in there and start firing at them. It's insane. And so when I look at these things and I see this trauma and I see this outrage, I see these companies and I see these news outlets wanting to promote it as if now is the time to push this agenda. And I'm saying, why is it now the time to focus on what we're doing to children? Why is it now the time to say we can spend $40 billion to a war we have nothing to do with, but we can't put $40 million towards improving the mental health situation that we have in our country, facilities, resources for children? Why aren't we looking at how we're treating children? Why aren't we seeing an increase in the amount of content available? You'll see content online about, take this pill for an erection, take this pill for your headaches, take this pill for your obesity. Dude, you get it. Pharmaceutical companies running ads all day. And if it's not ads for pharmaceutical, it's ads from big booze. Drink this, you'll be happy. Smoke this, you'll be good. Eat this, you'll be fine. We see zero advertisements saying, hey, parents, make sure you get to your children's level and connect with them. Why don't we have the money to put towards advertising healthy relationships within the home? Or, and this will blow your freaking mind, removing all corporal punishment from the school system and replacing that in every single school, pushing, if we can run a DARE campaign nationwide, why can't we run a Safe Kids campaign or a Connected Homes campaign? Why can't we put that across the entire nation and fund it? Who would stand against that? What individual do you know would be like, no, I vote nay. Don't put that 400 million to that. Send it to a bunch of Ukrainians while they're fighting the Russians. That's going to help America. I can't see it.
Who would vote no? The Congress and the Senate.
Fuck, dude. The truth there, actually, I didn't see that. I didn't expect that at all. But you're right, man. That is who would vote against it.
No, listen, man, you're talking about a problem that exists, that we can see and we can talk about. We can examine how to fix it. But the truth is, the largest group of mass shooters in the world are running the country. Right? These are people who don't care about you. They have no empathy. They don't care what you're suffering. They don't care if your family suffers. All they care about is control and ruling. And if parents do not take responsibility for their own lives, how the hell are kids going to step into that role? How are you going to raise a child who grows up to value life, not just other lives, but their life? A kid who thinks they're important, that other people care about them. And, we talk about this all the time. In the United States, there's still 80 to 90% of parents spanking and hitting their kids. There's, I think, 18% that don't have a family, right? A mother, father under the same roof. These are nerve-wracking statistics, right? They're showing you what we've created when we got off path, when we got away from families, when we got away from things that are important. And as bad as we see society, right? Adults who are heavily medicated on depression medications, anxiety, we see obesity rates going through the roof. The adults, the adults are who they are. The kids are the ones who need the help. So, and I'm not saying forget about the older people, right? But when brains are developing, when kids are learning and getting a sense of the world they live in, the home that they live in, that's when this message needs to get to fathers and they need to understand, hey, listen, you can completely change the life that you're living. You can completely give your kid everything they need when they're young, from an infant to 18 years old. And if you don't give it to them, there's going to be consequences. And what drives me crazy is I speak to parents about not hitting or not punishing, and they're like, well, kids need consequences, right? You have to be strict, you have to be rigid. Sometimes you have to lay down the law. What about the consequences that we face as parents? What about if we raised our children without violence? What would that show up, right? How would that show up? I mean, I know I live it in my home. I know that my kids have a certain level of emotional regulation. I know that they know how to solve conflicts. I know that they have confidence. I also know that they can examine their own lives and their own self, and they can say, hey, there's things I'm not fond of, but that does not define who I am. There's things I need to work on. And I think that is what we need to start showing in our home, right? That's how we need to start living. But it's not going to happen if we don't change, right? We have to, as a father, you have to believe that that job that you have raising those kids is the most important job that you will ever hold. And we need to get away from the materialism. We need to get away from the status, right? What everybody else thinks of us. If we want kids to be able to look inside of themselves and say, hey, I love my life. I value other people's lives. I want to be a good person. I want to add to society. I want to make friendships. I want to experience love. I want to have a family. I want to get married. I want to have a dog, even though it might die. Right? These are the things we want our kids to visualize, to actually see. I can't imagine what goes through the mind of children who don't have that, who are constantly abused. You know, he talked about being bullied outside. The bullying starts in the home. Kids learn how to either be bullied or become a bully from the way their parents treat them. So, you know, like I said, I can't imagine the pain that kids go through that have to deal with this shit, that are constantly getting tormented, that are constantly getting punished for fucking spilling a drink, for not cleaning their room, for not coming home on time. And we just keep turning the screws. We keep pushing this fear-based, weak parenting on our kids because we're not ready to take responsibility for the role of a parent.
You know, you said something that I don't want to get lost. You were talking about, you know, your child, if they make a mistake, there's a consequence. That consequence is the spank. Have we ever asked the parents, what are the consequences of you spanking? Why have we ever flipped that on its head? I don't even think we've done a video on that. That's a great title in itself. The consequences of spanking your kids. The
Yeah.
anger that builds. I was having a discussion with, the hell was his name? I'm going to bring it up so I don't get it wrong. Good Parents, Good Children. I think they run a YouTube channel. I would love to have that discussion live. I was having a discussion with them where they think that spanking is a tool. Well, if you misuse, you know, if you misuse a tool like a hammer, you know, and you're trying to hit a screwdriver, you would easily be like, this is not the tool for this job. You know, and so if you're going to say, well, guns, I was presenting an argument earlier in a different discussion that they're tools and that we shouldn't focus on the tool. We should focus on the mind that's using it. A gun can be used for sport, for competition, home defense, hunting. There's a lot of uses for that tool. Shooting children is not a use for that tool. And so therefore, it's not the tool we need to look at. In the same sense, if somebody took a screwdriver, walked up and stabbed a bunch of people in the neck, you wouldn't be like, it's time to focus on these screwdrivers, new laws on screwdrivers. You would say the mind of the person that grabbed that screwdriver is broken. And we need to look at how do we get to the point where a broken mind like that occurred? Is it something we could have prevented? Now replace that with a gun and replace that with a child's mind. 18 years old, that's a young man. Think about that. We're so focused on pushing agendas. This system, those in charge of this system are so focused on pushing what they want, they are missing what it is our society needs. Our society needs to be looking at the youth, man. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but for those tuning in, man, we really have to stop the quick reactions and have a healthy response and step back as a parent and say, you know what? That mind, the brain of that child was broken. And how did that happen? When you look at a lot of kids, and they're saying that, spanking is a tool. I mean, a lot of parents saying spanking is a tool to their kids. That's not the use. Hitting your child, the hands that you have that can deliver pain, that is not a tool to be used on a child. Spank your wife. Have fun with her. That's great. But your kids for punishment, dude, absolutely not. There's no place for it. And we have to understand that. We've really got to look at it and say, why are we choosing to hit a kid? Are there other things we could do? Like speak to them.
Whoa.
And when people say, yeah, think about that. The argument I had with the good parents, good children, I said, look, I didn't hit my kids and they're doing all the things that you're saying kids need to do. My kids have manners. My kids you've met them. My kids have respect. Kids, they're free individuals. They're healthy individuals. They don't run sprints into the street because I say, hey, kids, cars drive there. Car hits you, you could get really hurt. So look both ways before you cross the street. Why do I need to hit them to remind them of that?
That's sound advice.
Well, it's not that hard, man. Like, it really isn't that difficult. And so when I hear that argument presented, I'm like, you're just being lazy. You're just saying, like, fuck it. That's how I was raised, so that's how I'm going to raise them. And so be it. It's pow, whack. All right, they're done. Immediate response. They learned that the consequence of that action is they're going to feel pain. Okay, but now I'm talking to you, Dad. What are the consequences of what you just did to that kid? They didn't learn anything except to be afraid of you, which means they've got to hide it when they make mistakes, which leads to a whole host of other problems. And these dads are going to be like, oh, my kids are turning out fine. Your kids aren't smart. Your kids are afraid. We need smart kids. We need kids who think, who kids aren't afraid of punishment, who aren't afraid of fear. If we could raise in that manner, if we could stop pushing, heavy down on the kids because they're second-class citizens in most adults' eyes, we would see children thrive. And we would see that those minds that are broken, they might be salvaged. We might be able to reach them. I'm not saying that this kid who did this thing could have been saved, but I'm saying if he was brought up in a home of peace and connection, this shit would not have happened. I can say that with 100% certainty. You do not see school shooters. You do not see these insane things coming from peaceful, healthy, connected homes. It is not happening. And so when I look at this, that is the truth behind this tragedy. These broken minds are not coming from peaceful, connected homes. They are coming from broken homes. They are coming from homes with absent parents. They're coming from homes where old traditional values were being heavily oppressed upon them. You must be like this. You must fit in here. You must act like this. And you're not even allowing your child to breathe. If they step out of line as to what you deem them to be a good person, they get smacked around. That's not okay. Conform. And that's where you see a kid just snap. They freak out and they go and they just unleash absolute fury because that shit's bottled up inside of them. And at 18, when he snapped, this didn't start yesterday, man. This was years in the building. You don't accidentally go buy a rifle to go shoot somebody. That is planned. That is meditated. That is anger. And that is anger that is, I'm going to do this anger, which leads to I'm doing this anger. It never dissipates. Sometimes, dude, like if we get into an argument, I'm pissed off. Give me a day. Let me sleep on it. That's why we say sleep on your shit. And then the next day, all right, I'll talk to you. This kid slept on it and slept on it and slept on it and was getting more and more and more mad. What kind of environment do you have to operate in to feel that? That's the truth behind this tragedy and behind all the tragedies that we see. We are not taking care of the youth of today. We are not doing our best as parents. And honestly, I feel as though even we're championing this. We're running calls Monday through Friday. I'm like, dude, we're still not doing enough. We have to find a way to get this message out there. And like, how many hours have we logged just today talking about this shit?
We're doing all right, brother. We're making waves. I can feel it. I see it. Especially dudes like PMAC. Right? They know what's up.
Big dude too. All right. So PMAC says, I've even heard the argument made that kids that do these crazy things do it because they weren't spanked enough, as if spanking equates to loving your kids. PMAC, are you trying to get me spun up, man? I'm going to let you jump on that, Anthony. But he's right, dude. I've heard the same.
Listen, that's, if you go back a few decades, we used to hit our wives, right? Husbands were thought to be able to hit their women, their wives, and that was somehow a loving relationship. I mean, I don't want to get into how that shaped and molded the legal system and divorce laws, and how there's less marriages now, right? Because women had the right to leave. They no longer had to stay in an abusive home. Unfortunately, kids don't have that freedom, right? Kids have they're fucking stuck there. If the dad's abusive, if the mother's abusive, they are stuck. They have to deal with it. They have to push everything down deep inside, and that's where that darkness comes from, right? Not being able. Could you imagine not being able to escape an abusive parent either hitting you, abusing you emotionally, speaking to you constantly in a demeaning way, and being trapped there and never having an outlet? So, not to get off on a tangent, but what PMAX says is true, and I think we need to really look at that in a clear lens. That we spank kids, and it's been going on forever, right? The mistreatment of children has been going on for centuries. We're getting similar results, right? Kids aren't behaving better. Kids aren't more connected to their families. We're seeing families separated. We're seeing more criminality. I mean, especially now, think about the lockdowns, and all these kids had to go. They couldn't go to school, and they were stuck with their parents for a year. It completely fucked everybody up, right? Especially the young people. We see an increase in violent crimes. Obviously, we're seeing mass shootings, but these go on throughout the country every weekend. This is nothing new, right? There's a group of young men killing other young men every weekend. It's almost become normalized. We become numb to it, and unfortunately, we never learned the lessons. Like you said before, there has to be consequences. We need to realize that if we keep doing the same things over and over again and we're not getting the results we want, we're insane. We're fucking crazy. That's the definition. If you remove the spanking, put the fear aside, your kids are not going to be messed up. They're not going to be wild and rambunctious. And if you keep hitting them, you're going to fuel that fire. Or you're going to create the kid who becomes an incel, who becomes suppressed, who becomes violent, who becomes a nice guy, right? Who always pushes things down, and then they're going to explode. And we need to realize that, right? It's spanking. It just, besides it not making sense, besides it being immoral, it doesn't work. It's ineffective. And I want to get off spanking. I just want to talk about abuse in general real quick, right? Spanking should be obvious. I don't think there's a debate anymore about that. Like, I don't think I've had the conversations. I'm not getting off spanking, obviously, but I've had the conversations with people, and I send them studies for the last 5 decades, over 160,000 children, and how their brains develop differently. They take scans of the child's brain, and they put them in these studies, and they show that kids who were in peaceful homes, their brains develop at a much better rate. Kids who were in abusive homes, their brains actually reduce in size. And they study this. And then I pointed out to people, and they're like, "Oh, well, that was done by the American, Psychiatric Association. They're plotting to take over the world, and they don't want your kids. They want your kids to be weak and transgender, and all this shit comes out. How the fuck is there an agenda, right, from the evil warlords to treat kids good? Explain that to me. Explain to me if you had something that said, if you change your parenting, your kids will, and you stop hitting them, you stop abusing them, and you treat them peacefully, they'll be less inclined to be a criminal. They'll be less inclined to have teen pregnancy, less inclined to be an addict. There's going to be tons of evidence showing that they're going to be less abusive if they get into a relationship. Now, show me the other side. Show me the studies from anybody that says spanking has benefits, that kids who were spanked, they turned out fine, right? Show me the evidence that there's not a shit ton of people who sit down and talk to a therapist every day because they don't know how to deal with the fucking pain they have trapped inside. They don't know how to deal with their childhood, the manipulation, the abuse, the psychological fucking control. We don't have an argument to the other side, but we still don't make the change. That's what drives me crazy.
And it should, because it doesn't make any sense. And we're talking about being men. We're talking about being leaders, which means you have logic, you have reason. You're trying to operate within reality, not some fantasy land. And yet we're still seeing men in the fantasy land saying, "Oh, I hit them because I'm making them tough." No, man, you're not. You are. It doesn't make any logical sense what you're saying. And we see it play out in so many different areas. We see mental health increasing. We see what you would consider a strong young man decreasing. Our literally national security is at risk, not only because the military has gone full idiot and is forcing vaccinations, doing some weird shit, but also we're looking at the obesity epidemic and the physical fitness epidemic. We don't have candidates who can fill the ranks. Young men are not strong enough to join the military. Basically, they're overweight, they're understrong, and it's literally impacting our strength as a country in the defense of ourselves. And even then, I'm not here to funnel people in that direction. Just looking at within society, the amount of young men that would stand up. So let's play a scenario where a kid's getting picked on, and some other kid sees it and they intervene. Hey, get the hell off this little kid. You're bigger than him. Why are you so angry? What's the deal here? There is a pecking order. Kids tease each other. But if it goes beyond simple teasing and, some jabs here and there, that's when you would expect a strong man to step in and protect them. Be like, hey, get off his back. Like, we're done here. If that happened, if that played out across our country, over in different areas, do you see kids hitting the point where they're bullied every single day and getting smashed around every single day without somebody stepping in? Absolutely. It would be so small. We would reduce it so much if we had young men and women who are strong enough to insert themselves and say, hey, stop. This goes against what I've been taught is right and wrong. Stop. And if your kid is strong, no bully's going to want to throw with them. They realize the fear is gone. That kid's not afraid of them. And so they're going to step back and be like, oh, shit. All right, cool, whatever. They move along. They're not going to pick on that kid because that kid somehow has support from this other kid. And now you could all of a sudden change that kid who's getting bullied trajectory. And maybe your kid stepping up is an example for them to be like, hey, you've got to defend yourself, man. You've got to stop making yourself a target. That's what I see with these kids. The lessons that I teach the kids that I coach with baseball, I see them bring that into the school system. I see them start making better choices there. And I see it, I hear it through my kids, through just observations where they don't even know I'm around. I see it play out. I see them do the right thing against a group where they could use, the group mentality. But I see the kids that I'm coaching standing on their own against the group saying, nah, you guys are wrong. We're not doing this. We're going to do that. And it's, if we gave kids the credit that they deserve and we use some logic and reason, we would realize hitting those kids is breaking them down. It's not building them up. It's making them angry. It's not making them strong. It's leading to people who will be controlled and will be conditioned to either accept it or flame out and blow up and destroy as many innocent lives in the process. They will accept the abuse or the pressure will be too much and they will erupt. And tragedies, both of those are tragedies. One is the adult who's saying, yeah, man, I'll wear 17 masks and I won't go outside. And the other one is saying, I'm going to go shoot up a school. And as terrible as that is, I don't say it in light. I'm saying that in the literal, these kids have too much inside them and they are erupting. They do not have the ability because there's no outlet. Society's not accepting them. Their home's not accepting them. Nobody is except for the other people who are pissed off. And they're just going to put fuel in that fire. Get more mad. Go show them. Stick it to the man. Show the world how much you hurt. And that's when you see parents losing their children. Because nobody at any point wanted to protect that one kid. And so that one kid took out 19 more. It's a fucking tragedy, man. Because if you saved that one, that means you would have saved 19.
No, exactly. And I mean, the cure is simple. It's treat kids like human beings. And everything you were just describing, what you see in the kids that you coach, and obviously your children, when you give them that level of respect, when you actually treat them like a human and not an animal, right? Most parents are literally treating their kids like dogs, right? They're punishing bad behavior so the behavior goes away, or they try to reward the behavior to grow that behavior within the kid, and it's completely insane, right? They're just basing everything on the substance in that instant, right? There's nothing that was saying as parents, hey, maybe my behavior needs to change. Maybe what I'm doing is not appropriate. And maybe if I change my ways, I'll start seeing the changes in my kids, right? That's like an awakening. It's an awakening when you parent consciously and you say, I'm going to start to change things. I'm going to start to change things in myself. I'm not going to let these little instances get me mad. I'm not going to let them get me angry. And when I do get angry, I'm going to figure out why, right? What do I need to work on? But those are the changes you need in your family, because then your kids see that, right? Oh, dad's acting different. What's going on with dad? And when a lot of parents go through this phase, it takes a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of commitment. And a lot of people get frightened, or they get scared that they're not doing it right, right? So those insecurities come back from childhood. You're never doing anything right as a kid. So of course, as a parent, you're going to think the same way. But it's like anything in life. If you really want to pursue greatness, if you want to pursue excellence in it, you have to be intentional. You have to really learn about it. You have to talk about it. You have to experience it through a different lens, right? You have to see it for how good it is. If we can convince dads that it's awesome to be a father, it's fucking amazing, they're going to have a different outlook on how they raise their kids, right? If the more we talk about how great our connection is with our kids, the more their kids are going to feel it, right? Because now dad, when shit goes down or bad things happen, he doesn't have to react. He can say, hey, what did those two dudes on Oakland Rock say, right? Oh, respond. Comfort my child. Make sure that I'm taking care of them, and then address the issue instead of going at it like a child, like you're immature and you don't know how to regulate your emotions. So that'll segue into Jimmy G's comment.
No, that was a good one. I've actually got we're going to get to that in a second. There's
All right.
something that I was tagged and I wanted to share. Can you see this?
No.
You can't?
Let me see. Hold on. Let me.
Yeah, it's sharing.
maximize.
All right. So when you look at this,
Yep.
I was tagged in it. You know, a prominent Israeli politician. Families are bad for kids. When I look at the decisions being made, the laws being passed, the focus and the treatment of children, I always wonder, why is there a surgical precision with the way they do things? And again, conspiracy, maybe, maybe not. But I'm looking at how the family is being attacked and being broken up, and parents are being separated from their kids. We see a champion for stupid dads. We see them champion wino moms. We see kids treated as these little ball and chains and these anchors to our lives and these little entitled brats, and we call them the little shits. And then you look at something like this, and it says the total custody that we have in the structure of marriage, which still gives men complete domination over their children and too often over the women who are called wives, is a part of the ongoing hurt of children. So again, men are bad, whatever. The answer, she added, was breaking apart the traditional family and instead having a state-run mechanism that decided who gets custody of children. McKaylee emphasized that biological parents should receive no special preference in how children should be raised. Let that fucking sink in. What kind of human being would say that sentence? And how in the ever-living fuck are they voted into a seat of leadership and a position that has an influence over policy having to do with family? How in the fuck?
How do you think her childhood was?
Dude.
Come
and
on
that's
now.
who's making laws, man. That's who somebody's saying, oh, what are parents? They're just in the way. Let us have the kids. Give us the kids.
All that says is my parents were really shitty.
Run that was positive. What the fuck has the government touched that's gotten better? Name like one thing the government made better.
One thing. Sidewalks.
Bro, I don't even have sidewalks. So fuck that. That's off the list. Next. Dude, I look at that and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And obviously, I mean, that wasn't satire, but whether that gets passed, I certainly hope everybody else in the world is like, yeah, that's fucking insane. Let's not do that. But there are going to be some who read that and they're like, yep, I completely agree. Get the kids away from men. Men are bad. Fathers shouldn't even be in the picture. Okay, well, we're seeing what happens when fathers aren't in the picture. They're not in a lot of pictures, and here we are. Hitting kids is good. That's needed. Let's make sure that's still legal in 19 states inside the United States. We should definitely have that a part of our public education system because we see how well that's fucking doing. Yeah, our kids are smart as fuck, right? We're crushing in all these fucking grades. We see all these other countries going out and, giving their kids healthy foods, putting value onto the education system, placing an emphasis on parents being involved. Everybody except for pretty much China has a very, from what I've seen, robust, learning program that sets kids up for success. In America, we're like, fuck you, eat your prison food. Oh, and in 19 states, we can hit you too if we don't like what you're doing. So I say we should stop letting the people who are telling us what to think and do just tell us what to think and do. Get that shit out of there. Crumple it up. The headlines you see, throw it in the trash, look behind it. Look at the truth behind the tragedy. Look at what's really happening and not what they want you to see. They want you to see bullshit. Be angry, guns, dead kids. Let's run a new policy. Here's what's really happening. We spent $40 billion on fucking a war we're not a part of, but we couldn't put any money towards the mental health and the improvement of our education system and helping our families, which are struggling because we went and we fucked them all up with COVID and how we handled that. We fucked up the economy. We gave them $600, which a check I didn't even fucking want. And they all of a sudden, inflation's through the fucking roof. And $600 buys me like 2 gallons of milk now.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, it's really weird, huh? But we're going to blame fucking Russia or COVID or some shit. We're not going to blame those who are responsible, which are the people we elected in these positions who are just looking to fucking control and divide and conquer their own fucking people.
Yeah. No, so I'm going to throw another stat at you because it's relevant. And there are 59 countries that have full prohibition of corporal punishment. And the United States is not one of them.
Dude, and we're leaders, man. Like I look at my background. Do you think I like this flag right here has been with me on 2 deployments and over 600 days at sea. This flag is just a beautiful flag I bought. That flag was in my friend's pack the night bin Laden died. I fucking love what we're doing with this country. I think we have some of the greatest fucking opportunities here to be great and to be exceptional, but we treat our kids so poorly. It's an embarrassment. And that's hard for me to say because I do take pride in where I live. But the fact that there are 59 countries saying stop hitting kids and America's like, we're free, baby. Smack them around.
Yeah.
That's
and this is
up,
nothing
man.
New. Sweden was the first in 1979.
But think about, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Think about the ramifications. People love to point to America. America, that's where you guys are going crazy. America, that's where schools are getting shot up. Well, what's wrong with America that these other countries don't have? We treat our children so poorly. And somehow we found a way to pick at each other. It's like lower class fighting middle class is looking at upper class like they're entitled and they're shitting on lower class. And nobody's looking at the people who are running this country into the fucking dirt because I don't even know. It's kind of like a child. You can yell at each other and hit each other, but you're not going to yell at dad because dad will hurt you. Except now dad is government. And so now you're like, oh, I can't get government mad. So I'm going to pick up my little sibling, the low income. I'm going to go after them because I can take them on, but I don't want to get government pissed off.
Class warfare started in the home. I love it.
Dude.
So no, I mean, if you think about that, Sweden, 1979, they banned corporal punishment, right? And they actually were arresting parents who were doing it abusively over the top. But all the people who advocate for spanking in the United States, we have the highest prison population in the world. Do you think Sweden has a high population of prisoners? They don't. Do you think they go to war? They don't. They have very small amounts of violence compared to the United States. And that's not obvious the only reason or the cause. I mean, now they're a little screwed up with immigration policies, so they have an increase in violent crimes. But I wanted to go back to what you were saying before. If we want to look at the truth, we see fatherless homes in this country. We see it in great numbers, and we have to go back and we have to see why that happened. And for the people who bash men, who bash fathers, I can actually relate to that a little bit, right? For if you see these feminists and these young people growing up in that article you just shared, they probably did experience a bad father. They probably did experience really fucking dark times in their home. So how the hell are they going to support men? How are they going to support fathers? They've already been conditioned through pain, through torture, through abuse to hate men. And we as men have to own that, right? We have to go back the same way that I was saying before that men used to hit their wives. We have to go back and say that was fucking horrible. It should have never have happened. It's the same thing now. We need to hold men accountable and say, you should not be hitting a child. You're 5 times their fucking size. You're smarter. You're stronger. And you should not be putting your hands for any reason. I don't care if it's a tool for discipline. I don't care if the Bible says so. You should not be doing it, right? It should not happen. And that's how shit changes, when you call out other men on their bullshit, right? We can't allow it to continue. So.
Well, that's what we've been doing for how long now? We're like bumper cars, man. Everywhere we go, like if it's not me, it's you. If it's not you, it's me. One of us is bumping into somebody saying, no, dude, there is no pass. I don't care if you're a friend of mine. You don't get a pass. I got to give a shout out to Brianna. That's my sister. She says, preach. She's all about it, man. She's on board the program. We
Nice.
rolled the same way when it comes to parenting the kids. And then we can finally get back to Jimmy.
Let's get to Jimmy. Since
I've been
his
trying
mic,
to bring this one up.
his mic can't screw up the show.
Yeah. Jimmy, brother, it's good to see you in there. I'm glad that your mic is not messing us up, though. You're invited back on once you fix that. Jimmy says, emotional control is another issue. Too often parents want their kids, especially sons, to not be aggressive, and those emotions find a way to come out. You are absolutely correct, Jimmy. When it comes to emotional control and just control at large, we don't allow our children, we don't give them the respect that we would give another adult. If you were mad at something, you're frustrated, I'd be like, let it out, man. Like, just go ahead. Like, just let it out. Like, you got to vent. How many times have we spoken to men in FOE? If you've got to call me and you've got to get it out, just call, yell, vent, stamp your feet, whatever. All right, now go back to your family so you can just do your thing. Kids don't get that pass. Kids aren't allowed to be cranky. Kids aren't allowed to wake up in a bad mood. Kids are not given the permission that we give other adults. And you said something earlier. You said, treat the kids like adults. I treat them like adults I like. That's how I treat my human beings. I treat them like adults that I like. I give them that level of respect. My kids, if they're having a bad day, I tell them, I'm like, yeah, it's all right. Just stay in bed. I'll come in, your stuff's here. You don't have to get up right now. It's really crappy. I get it. Sometimes I wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Dude, I have these conversations. What good is it if I start yelling at my kid who is already waking up in a bad mood for whatever reason? If they have a bad day at school, are they not allowed to come home and just have an attitude? Sometimes I have an attitude, and I work in my house and I do what I love for a living. And I still will be like, I'm just in a shitty mood. Like, whatever, like something got me the wrong way. I read an article about some chick trying to say
somebody said they spanked their kid.
Yeah, somebody said it's good to hit a kid, and I'm pissed off. But my kids are like, it's cool, Dad. You go work out or something. You get it out of your system. I do the same with my kids, man. I give them that freedom to be a human being, which means they're not always on. And so my kid's aggressive. Sometimes they're both too competitive. Everything we do in my family is pretty much a competition. Who can do this the fastest? Who can run the furthest? They'll sit on my back. How many push-ups can you do? And I'm sitting there struggling, like, oh, Dad, don't be weak. I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying.
Who could be the best human being?
Well, that obviously has got to be me. No, when you look at it, man. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's interesting when you break it down, and what you were just saying. And I'm sure you've gotten this argument. There's fathers, even mothers, who say that they don't hit their kid out of anger. They do it in a calm, loving way. But what you were just describing, the child who's not allowed to be angry, that's that parent grown up. That's that parent who doesn't know how to process that anger or is afraid to show his kid that he's angry. Be angry for a minute. If that's what's going to take to stop you from hitting your kid and pretend, oh no, I'm calm, but come here, I'm going to hit you. Take the time to be angry, to get frustrated, to get mad. Show your kids you're human. Show them that you're not just a robot, like a fucking factory working robot. And every time they do something you don't like, you suppress that emotion and you swat them. It's insane.
That also keeps them from having that complex where they're like, oh, my dad was perfect. No, you're not. You're not a robot. And honestly, I would say the perfect person is the one who has emotion that gets shown. The perfect person, the perfect human being is the flawed human being who finds a way to turn those flaws into features. And so if you're like, well, I have a temper. Okay, you have a temper. Let that shit flail out somewhere in a more productive way. If you're like, every time I'm pissed off, I've got to drop and do push-ups. Dude, I would rather a weird dude who's doing push-ups in the middle of a restaurant than a weird dude who's going to wake up and just wind up and whack his kid. I would rather you do anything but hit your child. And if you've got to go and do your, like for me, it's just, you see me do that, man? That's me dialing it in. That is me letting, positive vibes, negative vibes. And I'm a much more chill person now than I was because I found a way to channel this because I'm trying to improve. And, and Jonathan over here, so big shout out to Jonathan. I've been seeing him on a few YouTube spaces now. He says, we need to teach how to control emotions, and it starts with us. Be the example, lead from the front. How many men do we see having temper tantrums, man? Their sports team loses, they stamp their feet or punch a TV. They're drinking or something doesn't go out their way. Biden does anything, and they're screaming online, slamming their keyboard. It's like, bro, you get mad at your kid for getting pissed off at a video game, but you scream at the TV when your sports team doesn't do well. You tell your kid it's not a big deal that their YouTube person, their stream broke down, but you will flip out if Joe Biden says something and stutters about it. and you make it this huge thing about how big of an idiot he is. You can lose your shit over an old man with dementia in the White House, but you can't keep your child's not allowed to get mad about their toy breaking or their Legos falling apart. Why? Why is their world any less important than yours? And that's what I mean about adults I like. If my kids come to me, they're like, yo, my favorite stuffed animal ripped. I'm devastated. I'd be like, fuck, we need to have a funeral or we got to sew it back together. Like, I get to their
that
level.
Might be a funeral, might be over the top.
Look, we're going to put it in the box. We're going to put it in the river. We're going to shoot it with a flaming arrow. We're going to burn that motherfucker with honor.
I just watched that movie. What the fuck were you watching?
I was watching it through your window. I was behind
you.
you.
Didn't see the movie. You better stay away from my home.
Jonathan also says, when you first said it is a crime to inflict violence on everyone except children, that is when the rubber hit the road for me. Violence-free, 39 days and counting. That is what the fuck I'm talking about. That to me is like sobriety, man. People are like, yo, I'm sober a year. I'm like, yeah, I didn't hit my kid for a year. Yeah, go get it, brother. Jonathan, that's what it's about, man.
Yeah, Jonathan, and we got to ask you, since you're on here, Jonathan, how has the change been? What have you seen, brother? Post a comment
definitely
up.
drop that in the chat, because there's a lot of fear. If I don't hit them, they're going to be rambunctious. If I don't hit them, they're gonna be crazy, and the home is gonna be filled with more chaos, and life is gonna get worse. So if you could drop that update, that'd be fantastic. I just realized our chat's kind of filling up.
Yeah, man, let's get to him.
All right, Big Zac says things make more sense when you realize that the dismantling of the family isn't a side effect of communism; it's one of the stated goals.
Ooh,
that is right.
Exactly.
I was just thinking back to what that Australian politician said. That's their aim, man. They want to divide. Adam Lane Smith, big shout out to Adam. He had this huge rant. I think it actually went pretty viral. It was about the government wants you divorced because then you're paying for 2 mortgages, multiple cars, and you've got to pay like whatever taxes on everything. He broke it down to where now you need 4 cars and the kids need to go back and forth, and then they're going to be fractured, which means they're not going to have a good example. So then they're going to get divorced. And now instead of having 2 homes, you brought it down to like 8. And he did the math, and I was like, holy shit. If that's their aim, they're doing really good with it. It's working.
Well, and it's working, but the plan is, if you can destroy the parents, the kids are going to be easily destroyed.
Yeah,
they're not even going to have to.
Distracted parents lead to kids who get destroyed.
Yes, sir.
All right, Jonathan says, grateful for you to bring peaceful parenting to my life. Yeah, brother. That's why we do what we do. That is why we're on here. That's why we run Dad's Day. That's why we're rolling with Dad's Twitter. That's why we've done all the things we've done up to this point and what we continue to do. The message has to spread. And I truly believe that this is going to become a mainstream topic. We are not going to stop until it is. It has to be normalized.
You're going to have to kill us.
Dude, I have no chill. Bree says yes. The triple yes. Oh, it's cool. I love when I have family in here. I love when like there are friends who like personally know us. You've had a few people on that know you.
Man.
It's cool to see the not the support so much as the people who know you in the real world. Like, yeah, let's fucking go. Because I know that she's living it in her life. I know what's happening in that home. I know how they're operating. And when you see it in person, you're like, it's so obvious. You see these people in peaceful homes. It's so obvious that that's the right choice, because look at how well they're doing, how connected they are. It doesn't mean life is perfect. It means, though, when life gets hard, you work together to get through it. Instead of people going after each other, it's the family against the world. That's how it should be.
But don't you think, like, if you go back to, say, television shows and you watch Leave It to Beaver, they had a nice, peaceful home. Don't you think those kids would have grown up to be screwed up and misfits and criminals and drug users?
I have been told that my kids are going to be those exact things, man, because I don't hit them. And I'm like, I'm still waiting. But how about, and here's when I flip it, why don't you tell me what's happening in your home? And these are the men.
Yes.
My kid is suicidal. My kid is having sexuality issues. They're trying to find their identity. They're being impacted by their friend group, or they're starting to want to identify with something else. My kid's depressed. My kid is gaining weight and doesn't want to go outside and do anything. These are the men who are telling me these things. They are saying this to my face and seeking counsel for me on how to fix it. And I'm saying, don't hit them anymore. Oh, no, that's going to,
rule 1, stop
do that.
Them.
And I'm like, why is that off limits? Why is it off limits for someone to say, don't hit your kid? Like, what happens if we don't? Why not just find out, if nothing else? We know what happens in the world if you hit your kids.
Freedom is scary.
All right, Smoking Tires. When men and fathers are destroyed through addiction and weakness, it destroys families. When families are destroyed, so too is the future. Brother, you're hitting the nail on the head there. That's the thing, dude. They want
We
control.
got to get him on because I
I've
missed.
had them.
No, I know I missed it.
I know. Yeah, we got him back on so you get the full experience
Just
of
us
the
three
tag
going
team.
crazy.
No, you're absolutely right, man. PMAX says it's awesome, Jonathan. Keep it up. Like I said, Jonathan, you're inspiring other people, and especially those of us who are living it. We are the ones who see the changes, man, because people will come to us and say, hey, like Jonathan did, I've stopped spanking. And guess what? My relationship's better. And guess what? I now realized I was angry because of what happened in my past or something that occurred. And I finally have the courage to face that. Because once you take your eyes off the kids as your outlet for the pressure, it does build up a little. You're like, well, how do I stop this pressure from building inside of me? What's causing this? And once you're releasing that emotional outrage on like releasing it upon the kids, the static goes away and you can focus on the signal. And the signal for many is that discussion with their parents, talking about what they did, talking about whatever it is they went through, and having to confront that demon in their head. When they do that, it's it's like giving up booze, man.
Yeah.
It's like you finally like give up that calling, that dragon you were chasing. You're like, I'm not angry anymore. That darkness inside of me is dissipated. And now I can't even think about wanting to raise my hand to my children. I want to sit and get to their level. I don't want to hurt the person I like, the person I love. Why would I want to hurt them? They're just young people trying to grow up. They just want to live in this world too. And if we're going to sit there and talk, how they treat them like animals, we see puppies rolling around and doing their thing. We don't go and beat puppies. They're dogs. They don't know what they're doing. If they have an accident, it's a mistake. You don't beat the dog. You just sit there like, all right, cool. It's a puppy. You expect these things to happen. I expect my kids to make mistakes because they're children. I allow them to be children. But because I speak to them and treat them like the adults that I like, they're rapidly growing, man. They're evolving as little humans, and they've got the freedom to do that. And guess what? They make less mistakes faster. You keep hitting your kid, they don't know why they made the mistake. They didn't learn.
Yeah. Take the time to teach them. And you know what the real beauty of that is, Zach, is when you do take the time to teach them, to coach them, to actually be a leader, they pass that on to others, right? It just doesn't affect them. They pass it on to their friends. They pass it on to other adults because they have a sense of confidence, right? They become assertive and they're able to process thoughts. They're able to tell other people what they want and what they need or what they don't like. And I think if we could get to that level, right? If we could allow our kids the freedom to express themselves, say what's on their mind without judgment, give them conditional love. Those are the kids who are going to go out into the world and they're not going to let people walk all over them. They're not going to let bullies stomp them down. They're not going to let teachers disrespect them. They're not going to let any other individual get into their head and tell them that they're not shit. Right? They're going to have that built up in the home. And that's not going to happen if you're constantly beating them down literally or pushing them down emotionally, right? If you're constantly just forcing your kid to live in that shadow, right? That dark spot of somebody who they're really not. We should be encouraging our kids to be the best they can. And in order for that to happen, we need to stop abusing them. We need to stop mixing words up and saying, oh, spanking is a tool. Spanking is discipline. Punishment is good for them, right? It teaches them consequences. If you're a grown adult and you let people punish you in your own life, you're a sucker. You're weak. You need to fucking stop. Stop normalizing it. Stop thinking that it's good. And if you punish your kids, this is going to be over the top. Stop punishing your kids.
My sister says, my favorite line, your kids are going to be a bitch or sensitive. Dude, like you just said, man, she has a way with words, like right to the point. I fucking love it.
Yeah, man.
But that goes to everything you just said. When you have strong kids in the home, you allow them to flex. You allow them to challenge. My kids challenge me. And again, I bring this up almost every episode because it spits in the face of those who want to argue with me. I've deployed twice. 8 years I was in the military industrial complex, man. I understand do what you're told. I understand discipline. I understand follow this set of rules because I said so. I understand how it makes people hard. It does make you tough. There's a lot of things you have to do you don't want to do, but you learn grit. My kids aren't soldiers or sailors. My kids are my kids. And guess what? They ask me why. They'll say no. They'll challenge me on things. And I don't sit there and come down because I said so. I sit there and think about it, and I come up with a response. All right, you want to try it your way? Go ahead. You need to learn. Maybe your way's better. Maybe I've done it your way and didn't work for me, but maybe it'll work for you. If it doesn't work, come back to me. Try it this way. If it does work, fist bump. Go forward. You're fucking awesome. It's that I wouldn't say fucking to him, but it's that easy. But as you said, man, and I'm going to give an example real quick. Twice, actually 3 times. One, my son's been in, I think, 2 fights. And it was because there was a bully that was picking on other kids and he squared up on them. They had their little wrestling. I say fights. They're kids. He wasn't even 12 yet. So their little wrestling match, whatever. But he threw down against a kid bigger than him. My kid joined football. They had this little, we're doing Oklahoma drills. He walked up, it was like prison. He's like, who are you going to pick? The biggest motherfucker. He picked him. He's like, I want that kid. My son's not the biggest kid. He has the heart of a lion, but he's a shorter 12-year-old. This kid is like a grown man with a mustache 12-year-old. And so, but he picked him. He called him out. They slammed each other. My son got thrown. He jumped up real fast. Okay. Ran back over. A little bit of tears in his eyes because he just got rocked. But he just ran back to his spot. All right, cool. I did my job. You're going to tell me that if I don't hit my kids, he's not going to be strong. But my kid, he argues with his teachers. He'll stand up to me. If he doesn't believe something is right, he will speak up and he will face it. And that's not because I beat it into him. And my daughter's the same way. They train their ass off. They do the things that they want to do to get to the goals they want to have. And I tell them, if you want to achieve this, we got to work for it. Just like if I want to achieve things, I have goals that scare the shit out of me. That's how far I want to go. I have to work my ass off for it. You're not going to beat me to make me tough. If you sat there like, hey, Zach, I'm going to spank you. That way you can go get your goals.
Chill.
What the fuck? You're not preparing me for the world, bro. Don't be gay.
No, but listen, we need to make that distinction, right? We need to understand that they are children and we can't treat them like adults. And I don't mean, we say all the time, talk to your kids like they're adults, like they're equals human beings, but they are children and they're not adults. So there has to be some standard with how we parent them, right? Otherwise, if we're going to say, oh, well, my kid at 5 years old, he should know how to clean up his room. And if he doesn't, I'm going to punish him. Well, now you're treating him as an adult, right? That he has this the brain capacity and the understanding to know why the hell he's getting punished, to what he did wrong. And if that's the case, if that's like the standard you want to have in your home, give him the keys to the car. Treat him like an adult. Let him go out and get ice cream if he wants. But we know better, right? We understand that there's certain things kids can't do that adults can do. We need to bring that to our home and how we discipline our kids, right? Discipline is great if you have standards. Discipline is a mess if you're an emotional basket case and you don't have any tools. You don't know what to do in situations. And you're thinking that the child should somehow relate to you like an adult in that way. Right? We have to understand that kids are growing, they're learning, they're trying to figure out the world. And if we keep telling them that they're dumb by punishing them when they're figuring things out, they're going to believe they're dumb. If we keep telling them that we're going to hurt you out of love, they're going to have a real distortion of what love is. They're going to grow up to be these wounded, broken individuals who don't care about their life. They don't care about the lives of others. So we have to stick to that standard.
And they're the ones who stay in that relationship where their spouse is hurting them or the one they love is hurting them because they think it's normal. Like you're saying, and everybody from the outside, it's so obvious. It's not so obvious. When you're raised in a home where the person I love you, mom and dad beat me. They're allowed to. Okay, well, I love you, wife or husband. You hit me, but that's okay because that's what love is. And we got to deal with it and swallow it. No, you don't. You should be very strict with who you give your love to and who you allow into your life. And if somebody's going to go in there and thinking they're going to control you, manipulate you, no, that's not for me. You won't find yourself spending years with somebody who's just trying to control you. And all of a sudden you're in the whole Amber Heard, Johnny Depp situation where you tolerate that shit forever, and I saw that before I came on here, so I had to bring it up. But Jonathan, he says, not only do I, and he's answering our question as to what's changed. Not only do I have more power to channel my emotions more constructively, but the energy in my household has changed in the positive direction. Yes. Think about that, man. That's real world change. That's not, hey, man, like pick up chicks, you can go and try to date, whatever. That's not, hey, if you eat this, you're going to look a certain way. If you lift that, you're going to, this is literally life trajectory changes happening in front of us. Right? Yeah. This is, good to hear. Dude, and I got my kids saying goodnight to me and everything. So it's the family, they're always looking to be together. But think about that, dude. Think about the trajectory of his kids. Think about the trajectory of him and his lady. Dude, when peace is in the home, man, when I walk out of here, Jackie's going to have a drink ready for me. My kid, he just said goodnight to me because he's tired. He's going to bed. They're going to be tucked in. The family is just happy. We work together. Things work. We're not fighting to brush teeth. We're not fighting for bedtime. We're not fighting like my wife isn't out there just scrolling on her phone, hating her life, looking at people's highlights reels. I'm not out there saying, "Oh, the world's fucked up and politics this and politics," and I'm yelling on the keyboards. Though I might be yelling at somebody who's hitting their kids. Dude, it's peace, it's connection, it's hope, it's happiness. It's all the things that people expect when they get married and have children. It's all the stuff you visualize that it's going to be like. You just got to bring peace into the equation. You got to bring connection into the equation and love.
Human nature, brother. That's what we were made for, right? Think about any being, any living creature. If you locked it away in a cage, it's going to take away who it really is, and you unleash it into the world, and it's going to be destructive. It's going to be chaotic. Thinking about a dog, right? If you raise a dog to be abusive, to fight, if somebody adopts that dog and takes him into their home that's loving and caring, that dog completely changes, right? It's not who it once was. And we can do that with our children.
Jonathan says, my 4 and 2-year-old are playing more peacefully and expressing their emotions with their words. Guess what, Jonathan? Kids follow your example, not your advice. You start living better, they start living better. You start setting goals and being open with them, they will set goals and be open with you. Even at 4 and 2, somebody was trying to tell me that after a certain age, when you stop hitting them, dude, they're developing the whole time. The only reason you stop is because they're getting big enough to swing back. That's when most people stop.
That it's okay to hit them at a certain age.
I think it was the good parents, good children one.
Yeah. When they don't understand words, it's okay to physically assault them.
You're allowed to hit until an age, and after that, you just dunk on them. You just mock them and make fun of them, ridicule them. That's what a good dad does.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that you get a sense of power as a father when you walk by your kid and like you go to push your hair back and they flinch.
I don't even want to laugh at that. That's sad. Jonathan goes on to say, for everyone just starting the peaceful parenting journey, be patient with yourself and have realistic expectations. The change isn't going to happen overnight, but it will happen. Man, that could not have been said any better. That is right on the money. You're going to have slip-ups. The one thing I would say is no matter what, you just don't hit the kid. That has to be 100% removed. And if you work your way from hitting to yelling, and you work your way from yelling to every now and then dad voicing, and from dad voicing to nothing, that's progress, man. But if you can just go and say, hey, I'm not going to hit, and there's no need to yell. If you can start to flip that switch, it'll happen quickly. You'll realize like you're much happier not yelling at the kids. But there will be a testing period for them because they've been operating in this environment for so long that sometimes they don't realize. You might have conditioned them to, I can do this until dad yells. And then if you get rid of the yelling, they'll keep doing it and doing it and doing it because the cue was the yell and you've gotten rid of the yell. So sometimes, and what I highly recommend is you talk to your kids, apologize to them for what you did up to that point, and let them know from there on out, look, I'm not going to be yelling anymore. There's not going to be this. I made a mistake and I had to go and fix that. And I did fix that. And I just want you to know there is no more spanking and there is no more yelling. I'm going to work with you guys, and you guys, I need you to work with me as we get through this. And we're going to find a way that makes everybody happy and brings us all together. And then we're going to be the best, and we're going to rock. We're going to be the best damn family out there. And that, dude, that's how you get that.
That takes dynamic. A lot of time, man. It sounds tiresome.
If I go back and replay this, that was about a 4-second conversation.
No, I love it, man. And I love seeing Jonathan pop in and talk about his wins.
You know what's cool is we're no longer just seeing these guys in like cigar rooms, or we're not just seeing them on Twitter. Like we're kind of like inter-platforming here. And it's cool because I think these men, like Jonathan right there, people might not give a shit about what we've said for the past hour, but they see his post and they're like, yeah, Jonathan gets it. You guys should shut the hell up and just let Jonathan talk. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Jonathan gets it. Follow that guy. He's making progress, man. He's out there crushing it.
Yeah, man.
All right, smoking tires. Children communicate at the highest level they are comfortable with. That's a wicked good point, dude. Make that a tweet before I steal it. Dude, that's really good. If they're comfortable, think about that. If they're comfortable pushing back against you, they'll be honest and they'll tell you something you might not want to hear. They might be like, hey, Dad, you told me that we were going to go fishing on Friday, and Friday came and went. You spent your time doing whatever. You went out to the gym with your friends and didn't come back. We didn't fish. You'd be like, oh, fuck. Damn it. My bad, man. But if your kid's afraid you're going to yell at them or you don't care, they won't say it to you. They won't be comfortable to say it to you.
Imagine kids holding you accountable.
Dude, I get positive feedback. I get negative feedback. My kids are super blunt, which is good. They say things and they're like, to them, it's just normal to speak truth. There's no filter to run it through. Like, is this okay? And I really like what Patrick Smith said. You say what you have to say. It's their responsibility to figure out how they're going to take that and what they're going to do with it. And that is
Yes.
something that I push to the kids is like, you speak your truth. If I like it or don't like it, that's for me to handle. I've got to figure that out. But if it's the truth, it's the truth. I need to hear it. Mom needs to hear it. And the world needs to hear it at large. You speak your truth. And that's kind of my tell them, like, and people will choose what to do. And it's kind of like when he was talking about his kids saying the F word. You can say it and they can choose to not hang out with you if that word makes them uncomfortable. And so they have their rights too. And you have yours. And he was talking about how the child had to decide, all right, I'm not going to say this because I want to hang out with you. And your choice to not hang out with me is based upon me saying that. So fine, I will not say this to have that friendship and relationship with you. And so the kid taught himself a lesson. And when you really look at it, the F word, honesty, integrity. If your kid's sitting in class and they're saying, hey, you don't need dads, we only need moms. Will your kid stand up and be like, no, I disagree?
My dad's pretty cool.
Yeah. I actually had a conversation just like that recently.
It's wild.
Smoking tires, more connection, more comfort, more communication, more peace. Brother, that's the game plan, man. And it's a circle. It's not just like linear, like, because that goes right back. More peace means more connection, means more comfort, means more communication. And dude, before you know it, your 12 and your 9-year-old are 24 and 21. And they're going out and living lives, and they're peaceful, productive people who are doing the thing that we say we want for our kids. They're strong, they're healthy, they're focused, they're determined. They're positive human beings bringing a light into the world.
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the game plan, man.
That is. It's been it.
I'm looking at you. I'm
for
taking notes.
Hey man, we gotta push forth, right? We gotta sometimes you gotta fight for what you believe in. And I think now more than ever, fatherhood is something that's desperately needed, right? Kids need to be raised with dads who are not just badasses, but dads who are fucking well put together, who have everything covered, right? Every angle. And I think that's what the world needs. It honestly does.
Anthony, would you associate with somebody who hit their kids?
Would I associate?
Like, I'm trying to think of the way to word it.
I don't think I could
Would you be
build
friends, or would you be hanging out at somebody's house and call them a friend and be consistently going to that person's house if when you went there, they were screaming and hitting their kids? Is that something you could get over?
No, I don't think I could have a relationship with somebody who crosses that boundary.
Why? Why?
So, I mean, because hitting kids is normalized, it's hard to see, but it would be the same thing if a guy was hitting his wife and was bragging to me about it. And it's like, oh, she's doing great. She loves it. My dinner wasn't on the table last night. I beat the shit out of her. I wouldn't associate with that guy. Same reason why it breaks a principle that I have in my life. So I mean, I would associate with him. I would have conversations. I would talk. I would try to change his mind, but I wouldn't have that be somebody that I put in my circle and say that this is a good man. This is a guy who I want to grow and build with, and I want my kids around. Because if he's going to hit his kid, what's to say he's never going to hit my kid? What's to say that he doesn't have control to ever try to hit me? So to me, it's prevention, right? If it's like saying, yeah, and it's not saying this exactly because it's a little extreme, but it's like saying if you had a bunch of friends who were like, Zach, let's go rob banks, right? We need money. We got to get money. You'd be like, no, man, I don't believe in stealing. Would you hang out with them just so you had friends, or would you stand on your principle? Or take
Yeah.
the risk of getting shot?
No, look, if we're stealing digital currency, you don't have to go anywhere anyway. And the dollar isn't worth anything but like 12 cents now. So even all the money we'd have wouldn't be worth shit. But when you really think about it, dude, what I was thinking when I asked that question, it was men who hit their kids in the direction that I see this going are going to be losing opportunities, and they're going to be less than men.
Yeah.
Like, you're a man, but you're less than you could be because you hit your kids. You're less than your optimal self because you're hitting your kids, in my eyes. And the way I see that is opportunities will be lost, connection will be lost. Otherwise a thriving lifestyle you could have will be lost. And it makes me think of the dude who's the alcoholic or the drug addict. It's like, hey, you have potential, but dude, you can't stop doing the drugs, and I can't be around that. You're going to get me in trouble. Or if every time we go out, you got to like go take a hit, and now you're just a fucking loser. Like if we were out and you went and you screamed at your kids and came back to me, I couldn't look at you the same.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm so turned off. Like I'm not like I can't be around that shit. And so I'm realizing that it's weak to hit the kid, but it's also literally going to compromise some of the integrity of your life and your experiences that you could have in life. They're going to
That's a
lower. You're
good
going to be
point.
less than.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's, to me, if like I had a friend who did drugs, right? Let's say I had a buddy who snorted cocaine every weekend. I wouldn't judge him. I don't care what he does with his life, right? I would have conversations with him about it, but I wouldn't think that I'm better than him or that he's any less of a man. I would see it for what it is, right? Maybe he lives a really good life. If he was an addict and it was affecting his life negatively, I would definitely try to intervene and throw a rope. Same thing with if I had a friend who was hitting his kid, I would throw a rope to him. I would want to talk to him. I would say, hey, listen, man, let's sit down and have a heart to heart. If that guy doesn't want to change, and he, like you said, if he's willing to suffer that consequence, to miss the opportunity to really have a legacy, to have kids in his life that love him, that's not based in fear, to see his kids get married and have grandchildren and actually be a part of that in a healthy way, that's on him ultimately.
Smoke and Tire says, in all seriousness, would you step in if you saw someone hitting their kid in public? We've been asked this a few times, and the answer is yes. I view it the same way seeing a man hitting a wife. That's kind of like the category it falls in with me. It's like, no, look, this doesn't have to happen. You take the attention off the kid by just stepping in, and most parents will get maybe embarrassed by being called out. But if they don't, and their anger, and they just want to turn that on you, like, cool, we can have the argument, we can have the yelling match, but now you're not hitting the kid. And it's my hope that you release that on me. Let's argue. Let's fight. Who am I to tell you to hit your kid? You're right. Who the fuck am I? Blah, blah, blah. Get it out. Say what you got to say. All right. Grab your family, leave. Go do your thing. But at that point, I would assume they're not going to double down and hit the kid more. They're just going to be like, we got to leave. I'm done. And, it's embarrassing for men to see something that's wrong and not say something about it being wrong. Like if we're the men that we're saying that we are, if we're all on here and we're in this improvement of men and being the best fathers we can be, how could we allow innocent to be hit around us and say nothing? At what point will you be called to action? Like if not a child, who? Well, like, are you waiting for the day that, like a Red Dawn where you're getting invaded by a country and now's the time to step up? Man, you can't even square up against a dad smacking a kid around. How the fuck are you going to face an army? Like these are the little trials. And so, yeah, I think the example I gave was if I was at Olive Garden or something, I'd be like, yo, like, don't hit let's just focus on some bread, man. Let's have a nice salad. Let's do our thing. Like, you don't got to hit kids.
Unlimited salad.
And bread. Like, dude, who can be mad there? But honestly, and I don't say that. I get it, dude. People ask the question. Zach's asking the question, and it's a genuine question. A lot of people, though, they present it, and they respond with like that alpha Twitter bro. Like, yeah, kick his fucking ass. No, man, like you don't go down just fucking swinging on guys. A lot of people don't know, but you do not allow something like that to play out in front of you, because if you do, then how are you going to look at your kids and tell them you stand up for what's right? Because I'm assuming if you're out, your wife and kids are there. Jackie for sure knows. All right, see you later, Zach. Hopefully this doesn't get escalated, because I can't not say the thing. Like it's just
I don't think you see it. I don't think you see it too often, because I think deep down most people know it's bad.
That's why they hide it. You brought that up. You brought that up with Patrick.
Yeah, they hide it, and I mean, what I enjoy hearing the stories about is when we've been doing the fatherhood Zooms in the fraternity for years now, and guys start to change their mind. They change their perspective. A lot of gents in the chat tonight, and they start to get an understanding exactly what Smoking Tires just said, right? Men defend the defenseless. But they understand that, and they start to live by it. So if you understand that statement, you can no longer hit your kid. And then when these men, I speak to them and they say they go out into the world and they're at the store, they're at the park, and all they do is focus on how bad these parents are treating their kids, not even hitting them, how they speak to them, ordering them around, right? Talking to them in a demeaning manner. And it's starting to drive them crazy, right? They're starting to say, what the hell how did I not see this before? Right? How did I not notice it? How did I not care that these parents are literally talking down to their kids nonstop. Like their kids should be fucking disappeared from the earth. They're insignificant, they're worthless, and they are nothing. What do you think? How do you think that child's going to grow up and feel about themselves? Who do you think they're going to turn into? Monsters are created.
If you enjoyed this episode, I'm not following that up, brother. That's absolutely, I mean, that ties back into what the point was, you know, the truth behind the tragedy, you know, and that's the truth. Monsters are created. The monster that we saw in Texas was created. The monster we've seen in all these tragic events have been created. They've been created within their home. And it's time to stop pointing the fingers elsewhere. It's the home we got to focus. The courthouse is not where we need to put our attention. It's the home. Focus on the home. If you enjoyed what it is we've been spitting tonight, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share it. Anthony and I were freestyling behind the mics. These are not scripted. We come up with the title. We understand where we want to go with this. You know, in some of ours, if we're going to go deep in the weeds, you know, we're going to pull the stats. We're going to get the supporting documents and evidence out there. And sometimes we just talk about it. And so if you want to join, especially on our live sessions on Wednesday, feel free to throw your question or topic out there. We'll freestyle with that. We'll freestyle with our topic. Or stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You'll see the videos that we're dropping. Some of them are 15 minutes long, so you can watch them at lunch. Sometimes we have a guest on. We go a little bit longer. But no matter what, if you're looking to become a better father or a better parent, you have to invest in that education. You have to invest in learning what are the other ways, what are the tools you can use. And if you have a question, reach out to Anthony or I. The links to our social media is below. Find us, hit us up, hit us both up if you want to. The email's below as well. Shoot us a message about your specific scenario. We'll break that down on one of our live sessions, or we can make a video about it. And we don't have to include your information. And so if you have something you want to remain anonymous, you don't want people to know what it is you're going through, that's fine. Just shoot it out there. Let us know to keep your name out of it. We'll answer your question or we'll address your topic. I appreciate everybody in the chat that tuned in. Anthony, another one down, brother.
Yes,
you already
sir.
dropped an incredible closing statement, but you got anything else before I wrap it up?
Yeah, of course, man. Always. We always got steam in the tank, right? What do we have these discussions all week?
So
no, man. I listen. I agree 100%. I think that these talks need to happen, and like you said, I appreciate everybody in the chat. Same thing with Dad's Day that we do on Twitter Monday through Friday. I enjoy hearing the struggles and the wins of other fathers, other parents, right? We have mothers come on as well. So it's good to see that the communication, that barrier is being broken. And it's good to see that we're actually having these conversations, man, because they mean a lot and they're going to change the world.
I have to give a huge shout out to my sister. Jumping in the chat and dropping the knowledge. She runs James Pure and Wholesome Skincare. They've got some of the coolest fucking soap you'll ever find. And my nephew's out there. So boom, makes it even better. Listen, for everybody that tuned in, thank you. Bree, electronic fist bump. And for those who are looking to stay tuned to what it is we're doing, we're live every Wednesday, but Monday through Friday, we're dropping a Dad's Day Twitter space at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're on Twitter, check that out. If not, like I said, subscribe to the channel. You'll see the videos dropping. You guys have a great night. And again, nothing changes if you don't change you. Take what you learned today or tonight and go apply it. You guys stay well.